The ways that people participate in this hobby continue to expand. This leads to some new approaches and standards that have never been done before, and some that may have been around a while that you may have never heard of. Today I'm answering your questions, including giving my opinion on L-scale or Lego trains. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. I'm drinking some Donut Shop coffee today, and this is Coffee and Trains.
This video is brought to you with support from my patrons on Patreon. These videos would not be possible without them, and if you'd like to join the Patreon community, you can follow the link in the description below and join for as little as $1 a month.
If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, please leave them in the comments below. Before we begin, let's talk some coffee. Dave Davis is drinking Hy-Vee mixed coffees using a French press to brew those. 223 Frank the Tank, I like that username, is drinking Aussie Lemonade Juice Monster. Close enough. And Seth Hoffmeyer from the Netherlands, how you doing, buddy, is drinking a macchiato. Leave that beverage of choice that you're drinking right now, whether it's coffee or not, in the comments below. Let's go ahead and get into some of your questions. Humanity Junction, how you doing, Heath, was asking about the new shirts that I have been wearing. I'm not wearing it right now because it's actually in the wash. And those shirts actually got made on Vistaprint, but I can see if Spring has a version of that I can put up in the store. So thanks for that question, Heath. Kaiser Knight says, what do you think the best track for starting out in HO scale is? Well, if you're starting out from scratch and you've never done anything before, you really have two options. You're going to go with the type of track that doesn't have a road bed or one that does have a plastic road bed. If you want to go the plastic road bed route, I would recommend Kato Unitrack. In my opinion, that's the best plastic road bed track that is out there for HO scale, at least. If you're doing the non-plastic road bed, and at least here in the States, you really have two main options, and that's Pico, and you also have Atlas track. Both of those are pretty good, but if you're starting out, I do recommend doing a Code 100 track because Code 83 can be a little bit finicky. All right, Frank Webster was asking what type of signals are on my layout. Well, these are actually some of those cheapo signals that you see on Amazon and places like that, and I actually buy them from an eBay dealer called WeHonest.cn. I'll leave that link below. He makes them all himself, and he does a really good job with them, and then I come in and modify them. I've actually done a whole video on that I'll link at the end. All right, Krusty Camper says he drinks tea and is he allowed to watch my train videos? All right, I guess I'll let you pass, Krusty. All right, Andrew Chapman asks, what is the best printer for realistic models? Well, luckily you have a plethora of printers to choose from. If you're doing one of the smaller scales, in scale, HO scale, and even O scale, and some smaller stuff in G scale, you really are going to be looking at a resin printer for those. Resin printer is going to get you far better detail with less work than filament printers. Filament printers can get you some good detail, but they take a lot of work to do that, and they can actually have a lot longer print times when you're going for high detail. So a resin printer like the one that I just reviewed, the Voxlab Proxima 8.9, is a really, really good one, and there's a lot of similar ones like that. And with these printers getting larger, you're able to build more stuff and more scales with it. On that same vein, Sparky107107, how you doing, Sparky? It says, what do I use to make my prints? Well, I use Tinkercad. It is a totally free web-based software that you can use online. You've probably seen me use it if you've watched my channel a decent amount in the past. And it's really, really great and really, really simple to use, and there's a ton of tutorials out there for it. So thanks for that question, Sparky. Tanner Mayo asks if I get my bottles of resin for my 3D printers off of Amazon and about how many prints I can get out of it. Well, yes, I do get my bottles of resin off of Amazon, and now I actually have switched to water washable resin. That's just gotten cheap enough now. I've used Frozen's water washable resin. That's PHROZN. And now I use actually FlashForge water washable resin, which is the same brand as Voxlab, which is the printer that I just bought. And I buy it by the liter, but you can also buy it by the half liter. And you can get anywhere from 5 prints to, if you're doing really tiny stuff, you can get a ton of prints per liter. My in-scale buildings that I print were typically around 50 to 100 milliliters. So you're looking at probably, I would say, 10 to 15 buildings safely you can get with all of that, because you got to have a little bit of extra. So that's what I would typically say is about 10 to 15 prints if you're doing in-scale buildings, probably about 5 prints if you're doing HO scale buildings, and this is per liter. And then with details, you can get a ton of prints. So, all right, the British engineer asks, does HOE count as HO scale? HOE is a narrow gauge of HO scale that is still in the 187th sphere. It just uses a different track. I believe it uses in-scale track. I can't remember exactly. It's either in-scale or TT gauge track. That it's still 187th scale. So HOE is HO scale. All right, Maurice Grimes is asking, got a lot of 3D print questions today, asks for tools for removing supports from resin printers. Well, I use a spatula to get them all off, and then I have gloves, and I usually just break them apart with my hands, and I'll also use a set of flush cutters to cut the supports off, and if I need to do it gently. Another thing you can do, I think someone actually commented on this, you can use warm water, put them in there. That makes it easy. If you've ever watched the 3D printing channel Uncle Jesse, he has a great video on all these things he's learned from resin 3D printing. I will link that right up here. So there you go, Maurice. Thank you for that question. And WD Stoddard asks, what is the tool that I use for uncoupling? Well, it's actually the cheapest tool that I own. I went over it in my latest video on Trainmasters TV. It's a bamboo skewer. Bamboo skewers come in those huge packs, and they are fantastic for uncoupling because they have that sharp point on the end of a long stick, and it's really easy to get in there and wiggle those couplers loose. Thank you for that question, WD Stoddard. And last but not least, Lieutenant Dan Hooper asked my opinion on Lego trains. He was feeling a little bit like it may have been a little shunned and people looked on it. Well, here's my opinion on this. I think that Lego trains is a big part of the future of model railroading, and that is because of the customization and the fact that you don't have to buy model railroad specific things to participate in Lego trains. They're right around O scale, but they have their own track, obviously, and there's already a huge community out there, including people that have built these custom kits and guides for building more realistic locomotives and rolling stock. So Lego trains and L scale is really becoming a big part of the hobby. I know I've had several people featured on Coffee and Trains with Lego trains, so it's something that I'm going to look into, and you're probably going to see me do a video on at some point, and it's just really great. It's just another way to do model railroading. There's actually, I can't remember the name of it, I'll put the name right here, of a 3D print based scale that someone has created over in Europe, and it's really cool. I don't have a big enough 3D printer to print the track for it, but it's a completely open source model railroad scale, and he has all the guides for and models that you can download and print. So it's really cool. Remember that if you have questions, to leave them in the comments below so that I can answer them. Check out these cool videos if you're looking to learn more or get started in model railroading. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.